This video is sponsored by Ye Olde Proppe Shoppe. Visit the link in the description below to find out more.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome.
Within its first 2 years of operation, it was already considered America's biggest tourist attraction. Most men would have rested on their laurels, but Walt was ready to pursue Project X.
He didn't spend a lot of time talking about Disneyland. In fact, he told us in many meetings, he said, look, you guys know how to do a Disneyland. I'm talking about something past Disneyland. And it was very exciting, his concepts, because in my opinion, what Walt was trying to do, he was trying to show how, through the free enterprise system, you could take virgin land and develop it properly and enhance the environment rather than take away from it, and also, frankly, without government subsidy.
Now, we've all seen those videos saying, how much would it cost to live at Disney World for a year? Living at Disney World or Disneyland. But what if I told you you could actually have a house at Walt Disney World and live there completely for free for over a year? The only caveat here, of course, being that you had to have been alive in 1966 and your dad had to be a lawyer who worked for the Disney company. For those of you who have never been or who are unaware, Walt Disney World is basically its own city in more ways than one. Allow me to introduce you all to the Reedy Creek Improvement District, founded in 1967. According to its website, the Reedy Creek Improvement District is a progressive form of government created in 1967 by a special act of the Florida legislature, the purpose of which is to support and administer certain aspects of the economic development and tourism within district boundaries. Yada yada yada. Long story short, it's a way to improve the district that Disney World is a part of. And since people in Florida can technically live on Walt Disney World property at Golden Oak or to a lesser extent Celebration, these days a house on Disney World property can go for, whoa, yeesh, that's a lot of money. But back in 1966, if you wanted to live on Disney property, it would be a whole lot cheaper. It would be free, in fact. You wouldn't have to pay anything. That is, if you didn't mind having your neighbors being owls and alligators and bugs, lots of bugs probably. This is the story of a man and his small family who lived on Disney World property back in the early days before anything was there. This is the story of Philip N. Smith and his time living at Walt Disney World. If you were to visit Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort today, you would find a lovely, quiet little resort full of people having fun, getting ready for their day at the park, or going swimming, or riding a golf cart around property. It's a fantastic place to visit if you ever get the chance. But back in 1966, it looked a little swampier. After Walt and the Disney Company went public about their plan to buy land in Orlando for the Disney World project, Walt and several executives from Disney, including Philip Smith, journeyed down to Orlando to spend hours exploring the newly purchased property. During that trip, they would stop on the porch of a house that already existed belonging to a man named Carl Bronson. This would later become the house that Philip would live in with his family for almost 2 years. He just didn't know it yet. Philip would later say that it felt a little strange out there, so absolutely quiet at night, and just as dark as sin. My neighbors were owls, raccoons, and the occasional alligator. The only surprise here being that, in Central Florida, that the alligators were only occasional. The family spent a lot of time exploring the property, including having picnics on Riles Island and hosting Disney executives at back porch parties. Riles Island, of course, being the former name of the currently abandoned and Disney fan favorite Discovery Island. One of these parties included inviting Walt Disney himself to visit the house, and another visit included Roy and his wife Edna. Finally, in 1968, the family moved out of their house at Saratoga Springs, or whatever the area was called at the time, and moved to Windermere, Florida, where Philip continued to handle the legal department for Walt Disney World until 1985. After this, he went on to receive the very long title of the Senior Vice President of Administration and Support. The house where he used to live was relocated on property and converted into an environmental lab, so it very well could be somewhere on Disney World property today being used by employees or cast members. Or it could be sitting abandoned. One of the two. Disney's not really good about leaving their facilities occupied. So when Rod Studios uploads a video talking about living at Disney World for a year, you say to yourself, Rod Studios, Philip N. Smith was Walt Disney World's very first resident, and he lived there for almost 3 years. Although I guess he was getting paid to live there instead of, paying to live there, so it's a bit of a sweeter deal. Also, go check out Rod Studios. He makes really good videos. I'll link him in the description down below. Philip eventually retired in 1992, and he passed away in 2016. But Phil and his assistant, Julia Switlick, were in charge of typing up the proposal for the Reedy Creek Improvement District, a document that ended up being nearly 5 inches thick. And whenever anybody who wasn't a Disney executive asked them about it, they had to keep their mouth shut because obviously Disney didn't want word getting out that they were buying up land in Florida. The process of buying up land for this East Coast Disneyland was really a secret agent operation. Walt himself would make a number of visits before his death to where the property is today. Whenever he traveled to Florida, he would fly under the name of Walter E. Davis. That way he could keep using the same initials, W-E-D, and people wouldn't be asking why Walt Disney was visiting Florida so often. Which is kind of funny because you most likely would not be able to get away with doing something like that these days. The need for all the secrecy was important because of the fear that once it was revealed that Disney was buying up a bunch of land, that the prices for that land would go up substantially, which is exactly what happened to Disneyland over in Anaheim. And that's exactly why, unfortunately, Disneyland is so small to this day and they don't really have any room to expand. And these fears eventually ended up coming true once it was revealed that Disney was buying land in Florida, where they used to be able to get an acre of land for $185, it rose to about $80,000. To put that into perspective, it went from about $1,500 in today's money to over $600,000. So not exactly ideal. When all of the acres were bought up, Disney knew that the area of land they had purchased was much bigger than any pre-existing theme park area in the entire world. The government, of course, had certain responsibilities that they had to provide to the people of this area, including fire protection, garbage collecting, water, sewer, street lighting, those kinds of things, so people who are living on property or people who are visiting for a long time aren't living in squalor. Operating the Haunted Mansion in Cinderella Castle, on the other hand, you're not expected to really pay taxes for that. And that's when Disney knew that they needed an improvement district to help pay for and operate these things. Although it's much less paying for the Haunted Mansion than it is paying for road work and landscaping and signage and stuff like that. The things that make Walt Disney World feel less like a theme park and more like its own self-contained city. And that's where it all came back to Phil and Julia, the two people responsible for typing up the proposal for the Reedy Creek Improvement District. And Phil specifically, the man who decided, you know what? Yeah, no, I think that's a great idea. I'll go move into the middle of a Florida swamp for the better part of 2 years for you, Walt. So the next time you find yourself at Disney's Saratoga Springs Resort, go ahead and look past all the manicured bushes and perfectly maintained hotel rooms into the Florida wilderness. And now imagine living out in the middle of that Florida wilderness in a tiny house with only a small Jeep to get you to and from civilization miles away from your home. Maybe living at Disney World isn't as magical as we once thought it would be, but it was for a good cause. And it probably didn't hurt that you would have Walt Disney over for a house party every now and then. A massive thank you to Ye Olde Proppe Shoppe for sponsoring this video. Their link is in the description down below, and if you love Disney signage or memorabilia, Club 33, Aladdin's Oasis, Main Street USA entrance plaques, they have all of that and more over at their website. And if you don't like Disney, you also have a bunch of other gaming and movie inspired merchandise there, so go check them out. It really helps support the channel. Hey everybody, bit of a shorter one this week while I kind of get back on my feet after traveling to Disneyland. I'm taking some time to make a few videos that are a bit different than my normal kind of video. So thank you for understanding that it takes a little bit of time to make these, and if you feel like you want to get even more offhand Disney content and see sneak peeks into videos before they come up onto YouTube, if you don't like waiting as long, head over to my Patreon, and pledging even just $1 will help you get sneak peeks to some of my upcoming videos. A massive shout out to Jim Korkis and the book The Unofficial Walt Disney World 1971 Companion, Stories of How the World Began. This book is really just chock full of Disney World construction and ideas and concept stories, so if you're interested in that, it is available on Amazon, and Jim also has a book about extinct Disneyland Offhand experiences, so if you're interested in that, and I know I am, again, it's available on Amazon. If you're interested in any Offhand Disney merchandise, I do have a Teespring store, it should be visible underneath this video, and a Discord, so if you want to participate in the conversation, and with D23 happening this weekend, there's going to be a lot to talk about. So, everybody, I will see you all in the next video, probably will be a D23 related video. Goodbye.